This isn't a horror story. No blood, no police reports, no violent twist, but something about it still makes me deeply uneasy. I read it on a forum where people share strange real-life encounters. You know, the kind that sound totally normal at first, until they don't. The post was from a woman who said she worked in marketing. She was traveling for work, a week-long conference in Seattle. Hotels were booked solid because of some tech expo happening the same week. While trying to find an Airbnb or anything reasonable, she remembered a girl she'd known back in college, Alicia. They weren't best friends or anything, just roommates for one semester sophomore year. Got along fine, lost touch after graduation like most people do. But they followed each other on social media all these years. Occasionally liked each other's vacation photos or career updates. Nothing deep. She decided to message Alicia on a whim. Told her she'd be in Seattle, asked if she knew of any affordable places to stay. Alicia responded almost immediately, said she still lived in Seattle, in a 2-bedroom condo just outside downtown. "Stay with me," she wrote. "It'll be fun, like old times." At first, the woman hesitated. They hadn't seen each other in nearly 15 years. But Alicia seemed genuinely excited, and honestly, the hotel situation was awful. So she agreed. They planned everything by message. Alicia even offered to pick her up from the airport. And that's where the story starts. She landed late on a Sunday. Alicia was waiting at baggage claim, waving wildly like they were lifelong friends. She looked almost the same, maybe a little thinner, same dark hair, same bright smile. She hugged the woman tight, told her how happy she was to have her there. The condo was about 20 minutes from the airport. It was small but cozy. Alicia gave her the guest room, clean sheets, fluffy towels. There was wine waiting in the kitchen, and a stack of takeout menus on the counter. They stayed up late that night catching up. Stories about college, jobs, random mutuals they both barely remembered. It felt easy, familiar in a way that was surprising. The first couple of days were great. The conference ran from 9 to 4, so the woman was out most of the day. Alicia worked remotely and didn't seem to mind her coming and going. Each night, Alicia had dinner ready. Nothing fancy, pasta, soup, stir-fry, but always timed perfectly for when the woman got home. They'd eat, drink a little wine, talk. Alicia brought up a lot of old memories, even ones the woman barely recalled. A Halloween party, a fight over cleaning the bathroom, a guy one of them briefly dated. By the third night, the woman started noticing small things. Alicia would ask oddly specific questions. "Do you still eat oatmeal every morning? You still wear your hair up when you're nervous, right?" Some were harmless, stuff you might remember if you lived together once, but others felt too recent. She brushed it off. Maybe Alicia just had a better memory. But then came the mug. One morning as she made coffee, she reached for a random mug in the cupboard. It had a cartoon owl and said, "This might be wine." She laughed and poured her coffee. Alicia walked into the kitchen, froze, and said, "Oh, I saved that for you. You used to have a mug like that in college. Remember?" The woman didn't. She said so. Alicia tilted her head. "Really? You used it every day?" That night, when they sat down to eat, Alicia brought out a framed photo. It was a printout, not an original, of a picture the woman had posted on Facebook maybe 10 years ago. She was standing in front of the Grand Canyon with 2 friends. Alicia pointed and said, "I always thought this trip looked amazing. You never told me about it." The woman smiled politely, feeling a bit weird. "I posted about it back then," she said. Alicia nodded. "Yeah, I remember the captions. I just wanted to hear it in person." That night, the woman lay awake thinking about it. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Alicia had gone through her old posts and felt nostalgic. But it didn't feel like nostalgia. It felt curated. The next morning, the woman noticed her suitcase had shifted. She was sure she'd left it zipped. Now it was slightly open. Nothing missing, but it gave her a bad feeling. She started keeping her work laptop and personal notebook in her purse during the day. Still, Alicia was kind, cheerful, always ready to chat, to listen, to share wine. Maybe she was just a little too enthusiastic. On Thursday, things escalated. The woman came home from the conference and walked into the condo to find Alicia sitting at the kitchen table, typing on a laptop. Not hers, her own laptop. Alicia looked up, startled. "Oh, I thought this was mine." "I swear. They look so similar." The woman forced a smile, walked over and picked up her laptop. It was clearly labeled with a sticker, her initials in bold letters. Alicia laughed nervously. "I didn't even notice. Sorry, long day." That night, the woman locked her suitcase and kept her phone in her pocket at all times. The next morning, Alicia was different. Less talkative. She barely said 2 words over breakfast, just smiled and nodded as the woman talked about her upcoming meetings. When the woman left for the day, she took everything with her. Laptop, charger, notebook, even her makeup bag. Something in her gut told her not to leave anything behind. That afternoon, during a coffee break at the conference, she got a text from an unknown number. No name, just, "You shouldn't trust her. She's not who you think." The woman stared at the screen. Her pulse jumped. She showed it to a colleague she'd made friends with during the conference, half laughing, trying to act like it was nothing. But inside, she felt sick. She called her sister back home and told her everything. The weird conversations, the old mug, the laptop incident, and now the anonymous text. Her sister told her to pack her bags and go to a hotel immediately. The woman agreed. But when she got back to Alicia's condo, the locks were changed. She tried her key 3 times. It didn't turn. She knocked. No answer. She called Alicia. Straight to voicemail. She walked around the side of the building and saw Alicia's car parked in the lot like always. The blinds were drawn. She called her sister again, who offered to get her a hotel room on the spot. Just then the door opened. Alicia stood there in sweatpants, barefoot, looking like she hadn't slept. "I didn't hear you knock," she said flatly. "My key doesn't work," the woman said. "Oh, the landlord came by while you were gone. Something about needing to reprogram the locks. It was last minute. I didn't think you'd be home so early." The woman stared at her. "You didn't text me or warn me?" Alicia smiled, tight-lipped. "I was going to." They stood there for a moment. Then Alicia stepped aside. "Come in." The woman hesitated. Everything in her body told her not to go in, but all her things were still inside. She walked past Alicia and into the condo. Nothing looked disturbed. Her suitcase was still in the guest room, but something felt wrong. The air was too still. She quickly packed her things. Alicia stood in the doorway watching silently. When the woman zipped her bag, Alicia said, "You're leaving?" "I think it's best," the woman said calmly. Alicia stepped closer. "Did I do something wrong?" The woman didn't answer. She walked past her and into the living room. That's when she noticed something she hadn't seen before. A small desk tucked against the far wall, under the window. On it was a closed laptop, a stack of papers, and a framed photo. She paused. The photo was of the two of them, in college. But it wasn't a normal picture. It was clearly cropped from a larger image, and only they remained in frame. She recognized the original. It had been taken at a party with 7 or 8 people. But in this version, it was just her and Alicia, arms slung around each other, smiling. She turned back toward Alicia. "Where did you get that?" Alicia shrugged. "I had it printed." The woman swallowed hard. Why crop everyone else out? "I just liked it better this way." The woman didn't say anything. She picked up her suitcase and walked to the door. Alicia followed. "I thought this week would bring us closer," she said quietly. "I thought maybe you'd remember how much we had in common." "We were roommates for 1 semester, the woman said. "That's all." Alicia's face twitched. "But we understood each other. Don't you remember how we used to talk about moving to Seattle someday? You said we'd open a business together. You said you'd come back." The woman didn't respond. She just opened the door. Alicia's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist. "Don't go," she said. Her grip was tight, too tight. The woman yanked her arm free and stepped outside. "Goodbye, Alicia." She walked straight to the sidewalk, where she ordered a rideshare to the nearest hotel. She didn't look back. That night, she locked the hotel room door and barely slept. In the morning, she received another text, this time from Alicia. It said only, "You shouldn't have gone through my things." She blocked the number immediately. Then, just in case, she went down to the front desk and asked to change rooms. They moved her to a different floor. That night, she lay awake listening to every creak in the hallway. Every time she heard the elevator ding, her stomach tightened. But no one knocked. No one followed. The next morning, she flew home. She never responded to Alicia, never unblocked her. A week passed, then 2. The text stopped. She started to relax. Work picked back up. She didn't talk about the trip to anyone besides her sister. It was easier to pretend it had been just a weird experience, something uncomfortable but not dangerous. Then the envelope arrived. No return address, no stamp, just her name, in neat rounded handwriting. Inside was a printed photograph. It was a candid shot. Her standing at a crosswalk in downtown Seattle holding a coffee cup, looking at her phone. She didn't remember anyone taking the picture. It wasn't posted online. She was sure of that. There was no note, no signature. She went cold. She called her sister again, and they debated calling the police. But what would they say? A weird roommate from the past sent a photo in the mail? There was no threat, nothing illegal. Still, she started being more careful, changed her privacy settings, removed a lot of older photos, deleted outdated contacts. More time passed. Then in the middle of January, she logged into an old email account she hadn't used in years. There was a new message, sent 2 days prior. Subject: I really thought we'd stay in touch. Body: it hurt, that you didn't even say goodbye properly. I cleaned the guest room. Put your mug away, rewashed the sheets. Just in case. It was signed, Alicia. That night, she finally filed a police report. She included the emails, the photo, the messages. The officer took notes but warned again. It wasn't enough for anything official. 2 weeks later, her sister received a friend request on social media from a profile with a random name but no photo. The only visible friend on the account was Alicia. They both blocked it, and that seemed to be the end. But what stuck with her all this time, and what made the story linger in my head long after I read it, was something simple. She said that months later, after she thought it was all over, she opened a forgotten cardboard box while reorganizing a closet. It was filled with old notebooks and receipts. On top was her college yearbook. She hadn't opened it in years. Out of curiosity, she flipped through it. When she got to the page with her dorm and year, she saw a handwritten note. One she hadn't noticed before, written in the margin of her own photo. It wasn't her handwriting. It said, "Room 307. One semester wasn't enough." She said she dropped the book and just stood there, heart pounding. She doesn't know when the note was written, or how it got there, but she packed the whole box and drove it to the dump that afternoon. Thank you for listening. Until the next heartbeat in a story. Subscribe and stay for more love in every word.